Alright, this is going to be part 2 of the how I take care of my orchid. Oh, wait a second. Alexa, mute. Alright, sorry about that. I forgot the music was on. But yeah, this will be part 2 of the series for how I take care of my orchids indoors. We're going to do some watering and fertilizing right now. Let's get right to it and I'll show you what I do. So basically a lot of my plants I keep in cups or saucers, decorative bowls, things that hold water. So what I'll end up doing is I'll actually just take this over to the sink and I will fill it with water. Okay, so I've got a couple over there that are watering right now. I'm trying to see which one I need to water at this moment. Looks like this guy could use a little, so let's take him over. And I'll show you what I do when I get to the sink. Alright, so once at the sink, what I do is first turn on the water and make sure I get it to a nice lukewarm temperature. It's kind of already set up that way now because I did water some others before I started this video. But once it feels lukewarm, I just basically fill the decorative bowl with water like that, or half water, half fertilizer, and I'll use either General Hydroponics Maxi Grow or General Hydroponics Maxi Bloom, depending on what state the plant is in. If it's just in a growth phase, like say the 2016 Orchaholics Anonymous plant, you know, I put some blooming fertilizer in there today. This one's also got, this is the Dendrobium Johannes, and this has got blooming fertilizer in there, and you can see that there's just a tiny little spike forming on this largest growth. So that's awesome. I hope I get to see that flower. But yeah, so this is pretty much basically it for the watering part of it. And I just let these soak. What I'll do is, Alexa, set a timer for 5 minutes.
5 minutes, starting now.
Alexa, mute. Alright, so what I do is I just set a timer, and 5 minutes I'll just dump them out. So they just kind of soak, the media gets all nice and wet. All the roots are covered in water. Well, most of them. Some of them that are like that one growing out of the pot, they won't get water on them, but I can spray those. What I do is I just keep a water bottle here, just label it water, and then like aerial roots and stuff like that, I'll just come in while I'm watering and I'll spray some of those. Keep their tips nice and moist, make sure they're getting a little bit of water also. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the watering routine. Let's go over some fertilizing issues. Alright, so the fertilizers I use, if you've watched any of my videos, you probably heard me talk about this before. I've also linked to them in the sites before. But I started at this location first growing an indoor hydroponic garden, a vegetable garden, in that south window that the orchids are in now that you've seen in the previous video. And I grew tomatoes, arugula, basil, a couple different types of lettuce, and I used this hydroponic fertilizer. It was the General Hydroponics Maxi Grow, and everything grew awesome, grew crazy. They were in big 25-gallon buckets of water, no soil, no nothing, and the roots completely filled the entire bucket. It was pretty impressive, and I've never seen a fertilizer do that, and that was the first time ever growing hydroponically. So then, when I started growing orchids, I had this fertilizer and I started using it. I started using the Maxi Grow, and I was getting tons of new growth. Big, healthy, vigorous new growth with the roots, with the new plants and the pseudobulbs, canes, everything, the leaves. They were all looking great, but I wasn't getting as many blooms as I thought I should for the amount of growth I was getting. So I went and got the General Hydroponics Maxi Bloom probably about a year and a half ago, a little bit more, or a little bit less than a year and a half ago. And now, when plants are at a phase where it looks like they should be blooming, the canes are big and healthy and vigorous and they're all good, I start using the Maxi Bloom, and that has helped promote sheets and spikes, and it's really worked wonders. I can't say enough about these fertilizers. I'm not sponsored, I'm not a professional, I'm just a home hobbyist, so let's get that out of the way right away. But these fertilizers are working very well for me, and that's what I do. The only other thing I've done before is just test my tap water, both without the softener, because my sink here doesn't go through the water softener, and then also with the softener. And basically there's not a whole lot of a difference. My total dissolved solids are around 250 to 260. It's more than you should be watering your carnivorous plants with, but there are a couple carnivorous plants that I do water with that water, and they seem to be doing okay. A couple of the other carnivorous plants I do use distilled water, but for the most part, and these are the fertilizers I use 99% of the time. I do have Miracle Grow orchid food in a spray bottle that I'll sometimes aerial spray the roots with, but that's I don't do that very often. These are the two fertilizers I would recommend you try. And again, what I do is they come with a little scoop in them. It looks like the typical little fertilizer scoop, right? For a gallon of water, I put 2 of these little tiny ones in there. Okay, that way I don't have to worry about burning anything, making everything too hot for any plants. And then a lot of times what I do is, like I showed you, I'll fill the decorative pot with a little bit of water before I put the all right, there's my alarm. I'll fill the decorative pot with a little bit of water before I put the fertilizer in, so it kind of dilutes it a little bit more. So I'm not like really overdosing these. I'm just giving them a little bit extra nutrients, and they seem to be very happy. I mean, look at this new growth on this one. I mean, it's just super healthy, super fat. They're twice as thick and as fat as the canes that are blooming on my other one that's the exact same plant. So it's just a small amount of fertilizer, but it seems to do a great job. And the general hydroponics fertilizers, someone was asking, you know, do these dissolve all the way in water? I don't have a really good example right now because I just used a lot of it, but this is the Maxi Bloom, and you can see it's pink, so you can tell the difference. This one will be pink, this one will be green when you mix it up. But yeah, it totally dissolves in water. I think it's made for hydroponic growing, so the nutrients and the way they have the fertilizer set up, it totally dissolves in water. You just give it a little shake when you first mix it up, and it stays like that the whole time. It doesn't really even settle. So yeah, it totally dissolves in water. It has all kinds of nutrients, trace elements, all the stuff that would need, because remember, this is designed to grow plants without soil. So that's why I thought it would be a good match for orchids, because orchids are epiphytes, right? So in order to grow epiphytes, you're growing without a medium, basically. Most of mine are in bark, some are in some lava rock, some are in some growstone. So there's really no soil, there's no nutrients coming from that. All that does is support the plant, give the plant something to hang on to, and also, you know, the media does get a little wet and damp, so roots can have moisture for a little bit longer period of time. But that's why I thought these would be good, because these fertilizers are made to grow plants without soil, okay? Either the Leica pellets or just an aeroponic system where the roots are just in water and the water is fertilized with these fertilizers. And I think they work perfect for orchids. But again, you know, I'm not a professional. I'm just a normal home hobbyist who happens to be having some good luck with growing orchids with these fertilizers. You'll have to try it and see what works best for your environment. Obviously, your environment's not going to be exactly like mine. But yeah, I think everybody should give it a try, though. These are great fertilizers. And as far as fertilizing frequency, I fertilize more when they're actually growing and in heavy growth, and then I fertilize a little bit less when they slow down and they're just kind of stagnant. You just kind of have to pay attention to the plants. I think they're going to tell you what they need and what they're looking for. Look, if you can see this one, it's a Latoria type dendrobium, right? And it's got 3 new growths on it that are growing really fast. So I'm obviously going to feed him a little bit more. The Roy Tokignawa #1, he has 4 new growths coming out, and is really looking for some nutrients to get those guys established. Plus he's already established a few new ones that don't have spikes in them. So he'll get a little bit more fertilizer. Now this one that just has like 1 new growth coming out, and some mature pseudobulbs. He'll only get fertilized maybe every other week, and I water typically, depending on the weather and the temperature, 2 times a week for most of these because of the way they dry out. I don't really have a routine on how I'm going to fertilize that one yet. Same thing with the dendrobium. Now this one's starting a spike and it's looking pretty good, so what I've been doing now is watering it with the bloom booster. So that'll be good. When these buds started on the dendrobium Takahashi, I went ahead and started watering it with the bloom booster to get the blooms out. And these blooms have been on here for months now. It's a really long-lasting flower. Same with this Dendrobium Roitokignala. This is number 2. Once those spikes started coming, then I started watering with the bloom booster. Maxi Grow, or Maxi Bloom it's called. I think it makes a difference. 2015 Orchaholics Anonymous project plant. It's got a nice new growth coming right here. It's getting the growth fertilizer. It's not ready for the bloom booster. The Cattleya Jean May by BL Morning Glory back there with the buds on it. It's actually being watered now with the bloom booster because it's got the buds and the spikes going. So yeah, just kind of take a look at your plants. They're going to tell you what they need. This one's a different story though. This one will put out tons of new growth at the same time it's putting out spikes and buds. So what I do with this one is actually I switch. One time I'll do the growth, one time I'll do the bloom. Just because, as you can see, these are all new growths. There's a ton of new growths coming, and they're growing well. But it's also putting up spikes and flowers and sheaths. There's a sheath in this one. I don't know what's going on with that. Normally there's just a little spike. But yeah, so this one gets a combination of growth at some time and then bloom at some time because it's doing the same. It's doing both the whole time it's been growing for me. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the fertilizer regime. If you have questions, comments, if there's something that you do or have a question on something that I do, yeah, go ahead and put those in the comment section. I'll answer those. I try to answer all the comments I can. I definitely read them all, and I'll definitely try to get to your question if you have a question. Now this I'm kind of excited about. Check this out. This is the Dendrobium spectabile. This is the first time I had a big bud show up or appear underneath one of the leaves. I'm hoping that's going to be a flower. I've been giving it some bloom booster. Hopefully we'll get a few others on these other canes. I've grown 2 new canes, but that's the first time I've ever seen a bud on it. And there's really nothing else popping out.